During the entire existence of the Soviet Union, the government made several attempts to wean people of drinking. The most ambitious one was during the reign of Mikhail Gorbachev, while the rest of the world was learning terms like perestroika and glasnost. How did it come to this? After the Second World War, alcohol consumption in the Soviet Union had been growing rapidly. It was 1.5 liters per capita in 1945 and 10 liters in 1985. The problem was enhanced by the poor quality of the beverages and drinking habits of the Soviet people. Most of them preferred spirits or fortified wine, and intoxication was the main purpose of drinking. In the early 80s, one-third of all deaths in the USSR were directly or indirectly related to alcohol. In some regions, drunkenness have become the leading cause of death. The incidence of alcoholism and alcoholic psychosis had been steadily growing. Alcohol has become one of the most important factors in the growth of crime. More than half of all crimes were committed by drunken persons. Authorities tried to hide alcohol problem. They declared statements that alcoholism and drunkenness had not been appropriate for socialism and the class nature of the proletariat. Alcohol abuse was considered a relic of the past or foreign influence, but in fact, alcohol was one of the main income items of the Soviet government. It brought in up to 30% of the revenues of the budget in the form of turnover tax. In the countryside, vodka provided more than half of the trade volume. Even though the majority of the population was indifferent or tolerant of drunkenness, dissatisfaction gradually formed. At the forefront of this movement were the relatives of alcoholics who overflowed the party and government agencies with complaining letters. On May 17, 1985, 2 months after coming into power by Mikhail Gorbachev, the Soviet government published the decree on measures to overcome drunkenness and alcoholism. Gorbachev's anti-alcohol measures included reducing alcohol production, trade restrictions, rising prices for alcoholic beverages, promoting healthy leisure and a sober lifestyle, prohibiting positive portrayal of alcohol consumption, improving alcoholism treatment. Alcoholic beverages were available only in specialized stores from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. Massive queues used to settle in front of these shops, especially on Fridays, paydays, and on the eve of the holidays. Fights were frequent, including fatal ones. The government had dramatically increased the penalties for appearing drunk in public. Special attention was paid to the eradication of drunkenness in the workplace. People could easily lose their jobs and be expelled from the Communist Party for this. There was an anecdote about an official who ordered the bribe giver, "Unlock the door or they will think that we are drinking here." Young Communist League actively promoted non-alcoholic weddings, but they often happened with vodka in mineral water bottles and with brandy in teapots. To control the fulfillment of the anti-alcohol policy, the government has established an organization called the All-Union Voluntary Society of Struggle for Sobriety. About 13 million people have joined it. In Kiev, the local branch was given no less the building of the city administration of the KGB, which was vacated after the KGB moved to a more spacious office. This society was voluntary only in name. That's why its members and leaders of local branches were often the people not to appear an example of a sober lifestyle. The anti-alcohol campaign was accompanied by aggressive propaganda for sobriety. Drinking scenes were cut from films, plays and novels. The popular New Year's film, The Irony of Fate, was banned from showing. Its main character, having got drunk in a bathhouse with friends, accidentally gets on a plane to Leningrad. The famous science fiction writer Boris Strugatsky recalled that during the anti-alcohol campaign of the 80s, all alcohol was mercilessly deleted from the text, so that our unfortunate heroes began to swallow mineral water, juices and coffee in unnatural quantities, instead of beer and wine. So what were the consequences of all this? According to official statistics, alcohol consumption has more than halved. In 1986 it was 4.4 liters per capita. However, it remains unknown to what extent this data display reality, since moonshine production has acquired unprecedented volumes. In the absence of affordable vodka, many alcohol addicts began to drink fragrance or glass washing liquid. In the most extreme cases, it came to the fact that bread was smeared with shoe polish, put on a heater, and it turned out bread soaked in alcohol. Vodka has become a multi-purpose currency. Electricians and plumbers used to accept payments for their services with a bottle. Money was not valued because little could be bought for it. Store shelves were often empty. Parodying a biblical saying, people used to joke, "Render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's and to the plumber the things that are plumbers." On the other hand, there were also positive consequences. The number of crimes motivated by drunkenness, industrial and road traffic accidents has significantly decreased. There was a surge in the birth rate. In 1986, the number of newborns for the first time in a half a century reached 5.5 million. In the second half of 1988, the authorities began to turn off anti-alcohol measures. First of all, sales limits were cancelled. The trade network for the sale of alcoholic beverages began to expand. Finally, the campaign came to naught in the fall of 1988, when the Soviet Union was in condition of growing chaos, so the problems of drunkenness were of little concern to both the government and the society. The public opinion on the anti-alcohol campaign displayed double think of the Soviet people. In public, citizens warmly welcomed the new initiatives of the party and the government, but in an informal atmosphere scolded and ridiculed them. The anti-alcohol campaign created a huge amount of folklore, anecdotes, jokes, sayings. Mikhail Gorbachev was nicknamed the Mineral Secretary instead of General Secretary. Not approving of drunkenness in general, the majority of the Soviet population was not ready for the radical idea of complete sobriety and resisted it. Drunkards and alcoholics were treated as victims of difficult life circumstances, weak-willed people. They were sympathized with, but they were not seen as offenders. Therefore, hopes to quickly eradicate alcoholism by prohibitions and restrictions turned out to be naive.